Hello and welcome to another Soul Java live session on YouTube. Today is a special day because I have the honor of the privilege of kicking off a new brand season here of videos. In this series, I will bring some Java developers around the world to talk live here with us. The Java Voice Worldwide. This is the first episode, a pilot if you like, the episode 0. As a good developer, we start from 0. Java Voice Worldwide, a place where we bring developers together through code and community. One conversation at a time, where the line of codes, each line of codes can tell a story. From today, these episodes, many developers trying several courses, right? Videos, tutorials, loads of things. But even with then they are not confident or they still struggle to feel confident in their technical skills and abilities and so on. In this session, our special guest will talk about how you can learn, practice some techniques, and help you master new technologies more quickly, more efficient, more precise. My name is Igor de Souza. I'm your host. And today, our Soul Java voice is Rafael Del Nero. Let me bring our guest here. Hello, Rafael. How's it going?
Hello, Igor. Very happy to be here and looking forward to tell some techniques to the Java developers to learn faster and more effectively because I know it's something very difficult nowadays. Now, developers are anxious because there are so many technologies to learn. So I know it's a mess.
Nice. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for you to be here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the contents that you generate and the things that you bring to community. I will leave the stage and I let you give the talk.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much,
much.
Igor. Happy that you are hosting me. Okay, hello, Java challengers. Community in the world, the biggest Java community in the world. And today I'm gonna do this live video to help you learn technologies faster because I know nowadays it's difficult to learn technologies because you don't know exactly what to study as a Java developers because the Java ecosystem is so big. And well, Igor talked a little bit about me, but I will just give a quick introduction about me. I'm Rafael Del Nero. I'm a Java champion, and I help you, Java developer, to stand out for companies and to be well paid. And remember that tomorrow there will be a very important event, which is the High Value Developer event. And in this event, I'm going to help you learn the pillars to become a well paid developer and to stand out to the market. Because it's not only technical skills that will take you to the next level of your career. Igor will share the link to you so that you can access and you can get registered to the event tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. It's going to help you to open your eyes to go to the next level because I was stuck in my career so much time because I was so naive. I thought that only technical skills would give me everything I needed to get promoted, but didn't happen like that. I was waiting for my manager to promote me, and it was the wrong approach. Anyway, let's talk here about technology because even though soft skills are important, we need also technical skills. And we need to study the right things, otherwise, we're going to struggle again and again in our jobs. So, the first thing that you must do as a developer is to choose your focus because, like, don't try to learn everything like from the back end to the front end. And you can learn the basics from the front end if you want. So if you want to be able to create a simple screen, that's totally fine. But the problem is that if you want to do a whole course of React or Angular because you want to become good in the front end and the back end, that will never happen. So just accept that it's impossible to be expert everywhere. You have to be so in some areas and choose one area that you're going to be very good. Like all of you here are Java developers, right? So the first obvious thing I will tell you is that you have to be proficient with Java. You need to be proficient with object-oriented programming, data structures, algorithms. And I know that it's a bit annoying to do those algorithms exercises on LeetCode and HackerRank, but it's necessary to pass in the interviews. So if you want to learn that or not, you need to play the game. So the game now is this one, so we need to play it. We can't complain. We need to, study those things, because then we're gonna become highly employable software developers. And if you want it or not, you become a better software engineer if you study algorithms and data structures. You become sharper programmer, right? And it becomes easier to learn any programming language as well. But anyway, you need to know Java very well. That's okay. If you want to focus and put a lot of time learning Java, that's totally fine, because it will help you to create better code and not reinvent the wheel. Because I see many senior developers, unfortunately, writing bad code with Java. They repeat code. They don't use the best practices. They don't know how to use object-oriented programming exactly. They create methods with more than 1,000 lines, which is horrible. So we need to always try to write our code in the simplest way as possible. Otherwise, writing code for the machine, anyone can do that. We need to write code for the developers. Even if you are working, and I know that almost 100% of the companies you are using microservices. So even if you're using microservices, pay attention in the code. Write the code in a way that it's going to be nice and clean to the other developer. So, okay, the first thing, Java, obviously, that you need to be proficient with Java. But then after Java, you need to know all the ecosystem, right? And the trap is that with microservices, there are so many things to learn. So I'll guess that most of you here are working with Spring. So if you can tell in the chat what is your tech stack, then tell me. I see Andres here. So Andres, is talking about exercises. That's great. So Andres, if you can tell me what's your tech stack, and other Java developers, if you can tell me what's your tech stack, that will be great, because then we can interact in a more meaningful way, right? So if you are using, I'm pretty sure that you're using Spring if you're a Java developer, because I saw statistics, and more than 80% of the companies, they're using Spring. So you don't need to know all the services for Spring. You need to know the basics to create a microservice. To create a microservice, to use Message Broker. And if you have that, I'm pretty sure that you're going to be good for the majority of the problems you would face in a company. And nowadays, as software engineers, there's a lot of investigation work. So it's not like back in the days anymore. Because I remember, like 10 years ago, when I was in one of my the previous companies, my work was to write CRUD. My work was to write the front end, then the back end, then I would write some Spring Batch jobs, and that was pretty much it. Nowadays, we need to investigate how microservices communicate to each other. We need to do investigations to understand how security works, because nowadays it's much more complicated, security. And nowadays there are so many microservices working together. We need to know how to debug those. So our work changed a lot, and we have to get used to it, because technologies will always evolve very quickly. So we need to get used to it and just accept it will always change. And with AI, it's changing again. I don't know exactly what technology we're going to have with AI, but it's going to change again. We're going to have another big change. I'm going to have to learn new things. And that's fine. We have to accept that it's going to be always like that. So, but in the same page, you can't always follow the shining toy and be learning random things. You have to be focused on the things that will bring the most impact in your career to grow in your job. So for example, if you're being impacted again and again and again in your job because you don't know a certain technology, I would suggest you to learn this technology first so that you don't feel so stressed out. And then your day-to-day work is going to be easier. And you might even save time to study things that you find useful for your career. So for example, even if you are working with technologies that you don't really like in your job, try to learn the concepts behind the scenes. Instead of focusing on the tool, learn the concepts behind the scenes. Because then, at least, you can apply the same concepts in another programming language. So I would say that the best strategy to focus on technologies is to learn the fundamentals behind the scenes. Because if you learn the fundamentals, for example, if you're using AWS and you learn the fundamentals, if you learn what's happening behind the scenes when you're deploying your service there, you can apply the same thing in Azure or in Google Cloud, in any other technology. So I was kind of naive before because I thought, oh, I know only Java. But actually, if you know the concept behind the Java programming language, you can easily go to any other programming language because then it's just a matter of learning the syntax, right? So, and your problem, the more you grow as a software engineer, will not be tools anymore. Because the more senior you get, the more you master the concepts. And you see in the market that nowadays the companies notice that already, because if you know very well the concepts and the fundamentals, it's much easier. So it's basically, so as a byproduct, you're going to be able to learn technologies faster. So if you know system design as well, if you know how to make a microservice performant, if you know why you would use message broker or HTTPS request, then you can create robust microservices and performant microservices. And when you are learning, so let's suppose your company now you're going to start using Docker, and you need to learn Docker. Suppose you don't know it very well. So what do you do to learn Docker? You have to understand the big picture, right? And how do you do that? Well, nowadays you have AI. You can ask the big picture to AI. You can say, hey, AI, give me the big picture of Docker. Give me the most important concepts of Docker. Give me the most important commands of Docker. Or you can go to Amazon.com and you can go to a Docker book that is a good one. Then you can see the table of content, because then you're going to have access to the main topics of Docker. So then when you do that, you're going to have a big picture and a very clear idea of what is Docker. And when you're learning technology, it's crucial to understand why you would use Docker, right? So how can you do that? You can ask AI. You could ask Google. You could briefly read in a book. It doesn't matter the way you learn. And actually, I also recommend you to mix and match the ways you learn. So by talking to other developers, or by reading a book, or by reading documentation, or by implementing something, you have to mix and match all of those ways of learning, because then you're going to be much more likely to really master this skill. And to really learn a technology or any new skill, you need to practice. Because if you learn only the theory, and if you never made a test, if you never wrote anything with that, chances are that the first time that you try to write something about with Docker, for example, you're going to have an error. And that's great, because if there is an error when you're writing Docker code, it means that you are growing that skill. So I recommend you to, every time you're learning something new, you have to make your hands dirty. You have to you have to try it. You have to test. You have to make your code break. You have to see errors. You have to make your code not compile. You have to do whatever test comes to your mind. Because remember, it's just a computer, right? It won't explode the computer. So you have a free license to try whatever you want, right? As long as you don't damage your computer, and it won't because it's only Docker, it's totally fine, right? So that's the great thing about being a software developer, because we can practice, with our computers, and we don't have any risk to damage anyone, for example. So practice as much as you can, and if you have an idea for a fun project, go for it. If you have an idea to create a product that potentially you can sell, why not? Try to create an app that potentially you could sell and learn something. Then you can join both things, right? Try to make your learning fun, because when you make your learning fun, then you're motivated to keep applying the knowledge and keep learning the technology. And remember that focus is very important. If you learn things randomly, you're gonna get demotivated quickly. And the thing that I see that's very normal nowadays for software developers or Java developers is that they go through the tutorial hell. And when they go through that, it's so demotivated, it's so frustrating, because there are so many tutorials on the internet, and then you watch one video after the other, and you still feel not confident on your skills, and then you don't earn more because you don't feel worth it. So it's horrible, right? And it doesn't work to learn like that. You have to have a clear focus, a clear strategy to learn technology. And remember, you don't need to learn 100% of Docker, for example. You need to learn the 20% that will enable you to solve the 80% of the problems. Think about Git. Do you need to learn all the commands? Of course not. You need to know the basics. If you know the basics, I'm pretty sure that you can do 80% of the work, right? So keep that in mind. And Docker is the same thing. You don't need to know 100% of Docker. I agree that you have to know very well fundamentals and the Java programming language as a Java developer. You need to know oriented programming, object programming. Those are fundamental skills, and obviously I would recommend you to learn as much as possible about those core fundamentals. But the technologies on the Java ecosystem to deploy an application or to create a microservice, don't worry about learning 100%. It's not needed, not necessary at all. Keep that in mind. And you have to see what works for you, right? Because a way to be motivated and to learn is to get certifications, for example. The Java certification is good because it helps you to learn more about the Java programming language. In my case, it helped me a lot to learn about Java, because kind of forces you to learn many concepts you wouldn't apply in your day-to-day job. But sometimes when you're creating your code and when you want to make your code clean and nice, sometimes you use those very small details you learn to get certifications. So certification, the most value you get from it is your learning. The other certification I recommend you to get is the AWS certification, because I know this certification is highly valuable to the market. So, for example, I think the cloud partitioner is not that difficult to get, the AWS cloud partitioner. And it will also help you to understand the real world situations by getting the AWS certification. It will also help you to create microservices, right? Because if you see, the default tech stack as a Java developer is always the same, right? It's Java 11 or Java 17, Spring Framework, AWS. You're gonna have always those technologies worldwide. So if you have AWS certification and Java certification, it will definitely help you, right? And its certification is nice because it keeps you motivated and you have a goal. You have to get the certification, right? The only thing I will recommend you, if you choose to get the certification, have fun during the process and do something real. Just create something. Deploy your Java project, use Docker, use Kubernetes, use whatever technology you want, use Kafka, and make them work, because that will give you so much experience. And in your day-to-day job, it will be the same thing. You're gonna if you do those things in your home, you're gonna do the same thing in your job, and it's gonna be easier. You're gonna be sharp for your day-to-day challenges, right? So we have to keep in mind that only learning in our day-to-day job is not enough. We need to train. We need to be always practicing outside of our jobs. And it doesn't need to be crazy hours. From time to time, if you want to, practice for hours, it's fine. I did that for some time. But for the long term, it's not sustainable, because I know that many of you have families, for example, or you have to do, your personal things. But it's important to have consistency. So even though, like, if you have only 30 minutes per day to practice your skills, that's totally fine, because consistency is more important than intensity. Remember that. Write it down, because this is very important. If you are consistent, it's much more important than have a huge intensity. An analogy for that is, for example, if you go to the gym. Like, if you go to the gym and you do super intensive workout the whole day, like 24 hours workout, do you think it's gonna help you with something? Obviously not. One day it won't help you. But if you go 3 days a week, and it could be like 1 hour a week for the whole year, that will make a big difference in your body, right? And the same thing for skills. The consistency will always beat intensity. So keep that in mind. Create a plan to study technologies and be wise on that. Don't learn random things. Learn the things that will increase your salary. Learn the things that will help you become a better software engineer. And please, you have to also learn, while you're learning those things, I know that many developers don't care about code quality anymore because we work with microservices, but it's highly important to create good code. So read the clean code book, or learn the solid principles and apply that, practice that, make your code organized, break your code into different domains, make your code nice to read. Because remember, it doesn't matter if you create the most performant microservices and whatever, but you don't have an optimal code. You need to always put some work on that. And one other thing I recommend you to do while you're learning is to use a mind map. So there's an app called MindMeister, which is amazing. You can create a mind map and you can organize your ideas. I use that when I'm studying something and I'm writing all the points and I'm connecting all the points. That makes me learn so much more. And by the way, do you have any questions? Right now, if you have any questions, let me know, and let me know your tech stack. I'm pretty sure you're using Spring, AWS. What Java version you're using? So tell me, guys. Oh, okay, so Andres is working with Quarkus. Quarkus is awesome. Yeah, but I don't think many companies are using Quarkus. Most of the companies are using Spring, which is fine. It doesn't change much. I just microservices. Yeah, it's quite painful, Andres, right? When you go from monolith to microservices, it changes a lot the way you work. So when you are working with microservices, there is the concept of ownership, right? So you have basically, it's the concept where when you get your task, you go from the beginning to the end And it doesn't mean that you can't ask for help. It means that you are responsible to close your stories. Obasler is saying here that he uses Java 21, Kubernetes, Spring Boot. That's amazing. That's pretty good. I don't think many companies are using Java 21, but that's that's the market default. Most companies are using Kubernetes, Spring Boot, AWS. It's always the same. So we need to get used to it and create our personal projects, right? And always practice as much as possible. And if you have an idea to create a project that could be useful, that you could maybe sell one day, get an extra income, why not? That would help you. That would be good. And so you have to be careful to not to go through a burnout, because that's another problem developers go through. They study too much and they feel that they're gonna feel the burnout. So one tool I recommend you to use is a Pomodoro tool. I use that every day. Pomodoro tool is basically a timer that you start. It's 25 minutes and then you take 5 minutes break. The nice thing about using Pomodoro is that you can track your progress. Whereas if you don't use any tools, you have no idea what's your progress. So it's crucial that you use a tool so that you know, okay, this week I worked on my goals for 10 hours, right? Then you see there how many hours exactly you applied to learn the thing you want, right? So Pomodoro is great. There are many tools you can find on the internet. They are all free. And guys, tell me if you have any questions so far. Okay, so I can see here Sondos are using Java, Spring Boot. Yeah, okay, so Sondos, yeah, he's guilty. Yeah, it's not only you, Sondos. Most developers are guilty of that. They go through the tutorial hell. They have no idea what to study. So, how many Pomodoros is this call, Rafael? I guess it's 2 Pomodoros. It should be 2 Pomodoros. One is over. Yeah, so that's something very common on those, because there are new things every day, right? There are, for example, now there is AI. We need to learn AI. We need to learn Kubernetes. And if you really want to learn Kubernetes, if you want to be an expert and learn everything about Kubernetes, I'm pretty sure you're going to take at least 5 years to learn this thing. So that's why I'm telling you that it's not worth it to be an expert in everything. So you have to choose the things that will make the most impact in your career. And you can't forget the fundamentals behind the scenes, because remember, you have to write code that other developers will understand. To be able to write good code, you have to understand the fundamentals of Java. You need to understand how to create a Lambda expression. You need to understand about functional programming, for example. You need to understand about design patterns. Not that you have to know all of them on the top of your mind, but you need to know the main design patterns and study them as much as possible, so that whenever you go through a situation in your project where you can use a design pattern, it will help you, right? So learning the features of Java will help you to create good code, code that is easy to maintain, and that will make you a much better software engineer. So readability, remember that, readability. That's so important. And I've seen senior developers, right? Senior developers from one of the previous company I was working for. I'm pretty sure that they were earning their 6-figure salary. They were Java developers from Los Angeles. So you can imagine that their salary is very high. And they were writing a method. and I'm not even exaggerating here, they were writing Java method services with more than 1,000 lines, and they thought it was correct. So this is horrible. They thought that a 1,000 line service was correct. So we have to break down our methods and make them cohesive and as low coupled as possible. Otherwise, you're going to see, you have to be the developer who will influence your team to improve the code, right? And the unit tests were also horrible. I remember there was literally 5,000 lines in the unit test, and I had to maintain that. Then I had a meeting with all of them, and I told them, hey, we have to improve that. Man, it's like 5,000 lines in unit test. It was simple code. It wasn't anything very complicated. But they were writing structured code with Java, which doesn't make any sense. So obviously you can't, the attitude you can't have is to be complaining and to, be talking, oh, those are bad developers. No, you have to try to influence them. It's difficult sometimes because sometimes they don't want to listen. The first time I told them, they were very reluctant to accept my suggestions. But then with time, they started understanding why it was important. So that's something to remember. Don't ever try to impose your ideas. Always influence them. Because if you try to impose your ideas, they're going to be on the defensive and your ideas will be just wasted. They're going to totally ignore you. So you have to instead influence them. It's difficult, it is, but you have to, tell them with respect, basically. Tell them, hey, 5,000 lines in unit test, that's, you don't need to say that's horrible, but you need to say why it's bad, right? Okay, so do you have horror stories in your projects where you found 1,000 lines in a unit test or bad practices? Okay, so Sondos is saying here, some developers believe that the more it's difficult to maintain, the longer. Yeah, and that's the wrong thoughts, right? Because if you do that, then you're gonna be creating developers who don't want to work in this project, right? Because if you see good developers, they don't want to be working for a project where the code is bad. They want to work with very nice code, with high quality code. What happens is that when the code starts rot, good developers start leaving, right? And that's the thing. I see many good developers becoming very, very upset and angry. And the good developers, they should try to influence the team instead of leaving the team, right? Because if those good developers leave the team, then there is no one to improve the code. The code will be always rot. But yeah, there is unfortunately those people, Sondos, who think that if they write bad code, they will keep their jobs, but it could be the opposite, right? Because if they write bad code and then they take 1 month to add a simple feature in the code, I think any decent manager would understand that, right? They understand that the code is horrible, right? So it could backfire those people who think that writing bad code would make them keep their jobs, right? Because you always have to think about your career. So, okay, so Bruno is talking here. Horror story. I deployed process that had over 50 manual steps. Oh my God, because they automated 4. They thought it was solved, and one of the steps was to comment, "Oh my god, that's horrible, Bruno." Wow, I thought I had seen the worst, but maybe, wow, that's difficult to compete. Yeah, that's horrible. Like, this is more than clear that, people in this project probably they had no idea what they were doing to create such a horrible process. So, and we have to be careful to not be aggressive when telling people what to do, because people in software development, they have fragile egos, and you have to influence them. Try, at least try. That's a little bit of soft skills. But I've seen many people, trying to impose by force, and they tried to impose the wrong person in the company. What happened? This person got fired, and I got really sad because he was my friend. Um, and But those things happened, right? We can't be naive in companies. Okay, so Bruno is saying here that that was his life when he was a consultant. Yeah, so sometimes you find a horrible project. But yeah, just to finish my point here, you can't be naive when you're dealing, with people you don't know in the company, right? Because some people might have the power to fire you. And you have to be careful when you're trying to impose something and the other person doesn't like that you're trying to impose by force. And then this person has the power to fire you and say, "Hey, okay, I'm gonna fire you then." This happened in the previous company I was working for. So it's sad because the developer was my friend and I liked to work with him. It was a mess. But just to tell you, can't be naive when you are trying to change technologies. Okay, so Sonos is saying here, I build a POC to convince I don't like talking too much. It's fine. As long as you influence people, it's totally fine. But still, it's important to try to communicate clearly. Even if you don't like to talk, it's a good investment for you to grow in your career. Because if you don't know how to communicate, what's going to happen is that other people who are less technically prepared than you, they're going to grow faster than you. And I'm pretty sure you don't want that happening. So yeah, POC, proof of concept, for if you don't know, it's proof of concept. And so you need to, bottom line, you need to try to influence rather than imposing things by force. That's a very important skill to keep in mind, to be aware of. And so supposing you're learning Docker, you need to define very clear goals, right? So define your success goals. A simple success goal could be that you would deploy a Java application with MongoDB or SQL, Oracle, whatever the database you want. You're going to deploy this Java application with Spring, and it will Dockerize your whole Java application, and you're going to deploy it in AWS, for example. A success goal could be something meaningful you can do with this technology. Because if you define the success goals, then you're going to be motivated to achieve this goal and to be able to deploy a Java application with MongoDB or whatever database you want. You're going to have to learn some important concepts from Docker. You're going to know how to configure Docker. You're going to have to know how to containerize your Java application. So you're going to have to learn the basics of Docker to make it happen. And I'm telling you a framework here that will work for any technology you want to master. So if you want to, learn the basics of a front-end application because you want to test your back-end service, you could use that with Angular or React or whatever the front end you want to learn, at least the basics. So, and once you have your success goals, like this is, so those goals are set using the SMART technique, right? So which is basically a specific goal, measurable, something that you can measure. So to deploy a Java application with Docker in AWS, it's something measurable, right? You know what's the process, you know that's something tangible, it's something that you can do, something that you can accomplish. It's achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So set some time, like in how much time you're gonna be able to do that. In 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, whatever is whatever works for you, you define the time. And leverage the right resources. So it's important to read the highly recommended books for Java developers. I have a list here and I will share with you in the private chat. So if anyone can share this article with the audience, that will be awesome. I put the link on the private chat. So those are the books that they're highly important for every Java developer. There is the Clean Code, Clean Architecture, Pragmatic Programmer, Effective Java, Design Patterns, Java Concurrency in Practice, Java Challengers. Obviously, I have to put my book here. Refactoring, Java Certification Book, Domain-Driven Design, Continuous Delivery, Golden Lessons for Mindset, Soft Skills. So there are many good books here, and I highly recommend you to read it. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Max. So Max shared the link. Okay. So Java also shared the link. Thank you so much. Yeah, so those are very good books. Those are like the timeless books. It's the books that will pass the test of time. Because those books, they focus a lot in fundamentals. Okay, so and follow thought leaders and communities. So, for example, you have many Java champions, many Java experts you can follow. Go to conferences, attend conferences, be aware of what are the latest technologies. Always practice, never stop practicing, and that's basically the foundation of deliberate practicing. To get good in any skill, you have to be consistent. Forget about like using your whole Saturday, using your whole Sunday to study something. It won't be effective. It will help you a lot more to do a little, like half an hour, 25 minutes a day, one Pomodoro a day, to learn something. Because actually we learn when we sleep. And this is scientifically proved. So when we sleep, there is a process in our brain where we will basically save this information in our brain. So whenever we are practicing a new thing, if we don't sleep well, we won't learn this technique. So you have to keep that in mind, that consistency is better than practice. So if you don't remember anything from this talk, keep that for your life. Consistency is better than intensity. Consistency is better than intensity. You can write it down because this is one of the biggest key for you to have success in your career. So if you have consistency and focus, I'll tell you, you can conquer the world, basically. So, and maintain a learning journal. So it's important to write what are your achievements. So while you're learning Docker, Kubernetes, AWS, So while you're doing those things, keep a learning journal so that you know what's the progress you are doing. So because then it's gonna help you to stay motivated to learn more and more, right? And other than learning things for real projects, you have to keep an eye on how are the interviews nowadays. Because I'll tell you that I told you in the beginning of this talk that the companies are demanding you to know about code challenges and system design. So you need to study those. Don't neglect those concepts because you're gonna need it in the next interview, right? How are you gonna able to negotiate in your company if you're not able to get an offer from another company? It's difficult because you have no, basically the company have the power over you if you can't get an offer from another company. So you have to keep that in mind. And we all have learning styles that we learn the most. So there are visual learners, for example. I like this kind of. I'm because I like to watch videos. I like to see diagrams. I like to see infographics. Um, so if you are a developer who likes to watch videos, and I'm pretty much sure that most of the developers nowadays like videos because you can see the code executing, you can hear the voice of the author. It's more interactive, right? You know the person who is teaching you. It's almost like being in the school, but nowadays you have the computer. You can watch whatever the course, whatever the content you want on the internet by video. You just have to be careful to not to go through the tutorial hell watching random videos because that will definitely not help you. You have to put the work. There's no way out of that, right? Learn passively doesn't work. It's it's you're gonna only waste your time. It's gonna be frustrating. You won't feel confident. Don't make this mistake. If you're learning something, try to create your own project. Always. You're gonna struggle, yes. You're gonna make mistakes, yes. But you're gonna learn. You're gonna acquire skill. And that's the great thing, right? Uh, when you are learning, when you are, even if you are making mistakes, and when you finally achieve that goal, when you finally have your Java microservice running in AWS, and you are using Kubernetes, you're using message brokers, you're using Spring Batch, you're using many technologies, it's amazing when you see that you achieved something, right? So you don't watch videos passively. That will just a big waste of time. Remember that just watching videos will be a waste of time. You always have to balance, right? While you're watching something, you practice a bit, watch more, practice a bit, watch more, practice a bit. Sometimes you're going to have to watch a lot, but always when you watch a lot, practice that learning. Otherwise, it's going to go everything to the waste. So you have to be careful with that. That's a big mistake many developers make. You have to acquire the skill and you have to practice to acquire the skill. So I really like also to learn through books. So there is the auditory learning style. And on this style, for example, there is a huge power in this learning style. Even if it's not yours, I would recommend you to try to develop that. I know there are many people who say, oh, I can't listen because I don't like it. But I will encourage you to develop that. Why? Because imagine how much time you are wasting if you're commuting to work. Imagine if you commute to work, like to go to your job, you take 1 hour, and to go back, you take another hour. So that's 2 hours a day, right? Imagine how many hours, if you add up in the whole year, you would waste, how many hours you could listen to a book and learn something that will bring you so much value. Education changed the game. If you listen books, it's going to help you grow. And also don't make the mistake of listening to books that are only focused on technical stuff. Listen to books that will help you to improve your mindset. Why? Because with a good mindset, you keep learning, you don't give up. With a weak mindset, you would, start complaining. You would throw the fault. You would blame external factors, and you would have many excuses to not do the work. When you have a strong mindset, man, there's no excuse. You have to do the work. You have to be a better Java developer. You need to write amazing code. You need to do your best to deliver the best code as you could as you can, right? So you have to consistently work on your mindset, and a great way to get motivated is to go to conferences. Always when you go to a conference, you feel so energized, you feel motivated, you are happy to be learning and to be doing networking with other people, with other developers. That's crucial, right? Because when developers know you, they might recommend you to the best opportunities, to nice opportunities, right? So have to keep that in mind. And if you're not an auditory learning, develop that. Because imagine, there are so many times that really it's wasted time. For example, when I'm going to wash the dishes, what I'm doing, I'm listening to something. It's rare where I let a dead time in my schedule. Yes, sometimes I will, I will take some rest for my mind, because we can't also overwhelm our minds. We have to sometimes, have fun, and to not focus on the work. But every time I'm doing something boring, like washing the dishes or cleaning the house or going to the gym, gym is like brainless exercise. You just do repetition exercise. And I'm always listening to a book or a podcast. I'm always learning something. So if you adopt this habit, it's going to be amazing. Like, imagine in 5 years and you are listening to amazing software development books, mindset books. If you are learning, about finances, those skills are important for you, because they're gonna be impacting you every day in your life. Like, your finance will be impacting you every day. I see many developers with basic finance problems, right? And if they learn a little bit about finance, right, some basics, like it would change the game for them. So don't make the mistake I made. 10 years ago, I was focusing only on technical stuff. Other subjects I would totally ignore and neglect. And I didn't know that was my biggest mistake in my career, that was making me stay stuck in my career. So if you're not auditory learning, develop this ability. And the website I recommend is audible.com from Amazon. It's such a small investment, like $20 a month, to get access to almost every book in the world. So much wisdom, right? So much wisdom. We can't let this go outside of our hands. Technology makes it so easy for us to consume those concepts. Use this power. Use the power you have available. Otherwise, you're going to be behind. Okay, so Basler is complaining here. I do have finance problem for a starter. I don't have enough money. Yeah, Basler, like, I would recommend you to not focus too much on technical stuff. we have to think about the other things, right? Because if we are only focused on technical stuff, we're going to be like a puppet from other companies. The company will just make, hey, come on here, I will dictate your salary. I will tell you how much you're gonna earn, which is horrible. So that was a big lesson I learned. I was focusing so much on the technical side that I was basically a puppet, right? And that's horrible position to be in. I don't want to be a puppet. I want to be, in control of my career. And you all want the same thing, right? So be careful with that. That's a big mistake from many developers. I was very naive. But then I learned, okay, it's not only technical stuff. So there are many books. Basler, I recommend you the book, I Will Teach You How to Be Rich. That's a very good book. So this book is excellent. I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Okay, it's this one. So I will share here with you. And this book is excellent. And it's such a small investment for such a great amount of knowledge. So I shared here the book. It's an amazing book. And yeah, we can't be only focused on the technical stuff. We have to realize that the world is a lot more than technical stuff. Even to solve technical problems, we have to know about the business. Have to know the business behind the scenes. We need to know about people. We need to know who we are dealing with exactly. So we have to always be aware of what's going on exactly. Yeah, so Max is sharing here the book. And also there is a kinesthetic learning. And this is a very good way to learn it, which is the way I'm recommending you is to do it. Get your hands dirty, right? Get your hands dirty. That's the best way to learn software development, right? And you have to balance your knowledge about technical and soft skills, because if you are very good in technical stuff, you might be that developer who is there in their desk and nobody notices you. And that's really sad, because I saw so many developers who are highly skilled, very good, one of the strongest technically, but this developer was totally forgotten because the developer didn't have soft skills to communicate and to show their skills to other developers. That's very sad, something very sad that I don't want to see happening with you, for example. And guys, that's pretty much it. That's just a warm-up event. I'm gonna have the main event tomorrow, which is gonna be the High Value Developer Roadmap, where I'm gonna tell you the steps to become well-paid developer and stand out to companies. Let me get the link here. I shared the link in the beginning, but I will share it again. So let me go here. Oh yeah, thank you so much. Yes, thanks Sojava. Yeah, so that's the main event. So I invite you to be there, so to learn what are those steps, and to not be stuck so many years like I was in my career and I had no idea what was going on. And I'll show you the steps to stand out as a developer and to also be well paid, because it really sucks to be an underpaid developer, right? Because you can't do your travels, you can barely provide to your family. There are many issues, right? I know that when we talk about salaries, to developers kind of a taboo, but it can't be a taboo. Why? Because again, if you make your salary a taboo, first thing, you're gonna very likely be an underpaid developer. Second thing, the companies will control you because they will have all the power during the salary negotiation. And third, it's gonna be it's gonna be more difficult to provide for your family. And I'm sure you want to be a good provider, right? You want to, make your family secure. You want to spend quality time with your family. You want to go to the best restaurants, and we deserve, right? The developer is one of the most difficult professions in the world, right? We need to be studying. We need to be. It's fun, right? Have fun. I love being a software engineer, but we can't deny that it's difficult. So you have to get the salary you deserve. Don't let the companies control you. Being a puppet from companies it's not a position you want to be. Okay, so Sondos is, yes, that's a great thing. I also did that while I was driving Sondos. I was listening to audiobooks or podcasts. I created a list on my blog. Let me just find here to you. But there are many good books. So those books are some of the books that had great impact in my career and for mindset. So this is the link: 20 books career for career and personal development. So there's this article, you can check it out. Okay, so we have more. Oh, okay, Basler is asking, what's your travel hack? Travel hack? I don't have a travel hack. Well, maybe it's my small laptop. This is a MacBook, very good laptop to work. And this MacBook will last like 12 hours, right? So if I charge it, I'm fine to work for while I'm flying. So my hack when I'm flying is to work while I'm flying. Sometimes I can pay the flight ticket working. So, and not for my 9 to 5 company. I can pay that writing articles. I can pay that, doing things outside of my 9 to 5 job. And, we can have multiple sources of income. So that's a good strategy I use. It's a hack, right? So instead of being there watching useless movies, I'm not saying that you can't watch a movie. You can watch a movie. But instead of being there, like if you're going to a huge trip, instead of following the crowd and following I would say the victim developers, you would be a challenger developer, right? You would say, hey, I want to be following this crowd. I will do my work. And again, I'm not saying that you can't watch a video. Sometimes I watch movies, but I will always take some time to do some work, write articles, do whatever I can to pay my flight ticket. And so that's my hack. Instead of watching movies, I would be doing work. That's a technique Venkat Subramanian uses. So all of his books he wrote was while he was flying. If you don't know Venkat Subramanian, he's a Java champion. He wrote several books. He's one of the best speakers in the world. And this is strategy. So he travels so much to give talks all over the world. While he's in the airplane, he's writing, right? He wrote the Kotlin book. He wrote so many books like that because you have so much time in the airplane. So I think my biggest hack is that. And the other hack I use is to travel light. There's an amazing backpack. I think the name is Victoria. Let me see here. Victoria backpack. Well, I forgot the name of the backpack, but it's a very good backpack. Anyway, I also use a backpack where I can travel light. So I never travel heavily. I take just one shoe, one jeans trouser, basic shirts, and I travel light so that I don't need to pay extra fees. And I don't want it's annoying to take a lot of weight. For me, just a backpack, that's it. If I'm traveling for 1 week or 2 weeks, I can wash my clothes. So I would say that my travel hacks are those. I do work while I'm in the flight, and I use travel backpack to be able to take my clothes in the backpack, and then I don't need to check in my bag, which is annoying. There's less security, which is also annoying. I hate going through security, and yeah, there less stress basically. So if you travel light, less stress, and I always take my laptop. And MacBook is excellent. I know that's a bit expensive, but it doesn't need to be a MacBook. Could be another one, but preferably get a laptop where you get lots of hours on battery. Otherwise, you can't work in the airplane because most airplanes won't have a charger unless you get a portable charger. Then you're fine. Okay, so Andres is saying here, I became too internet dependent. I can hardly write anything without Google. Well, most flight companies, you have Wi-Fi. If you are doing international flight, you have access to Wi-Fi. It's horrible. The internet is very slow, but you have access to the internet. You can definitely connect to the internet. So yeah, I also use internet when I'm flying while I'm doing work. But sometimes you don't need it, right? If you're writing an article, you just write an article. Or if you want to do some research behind this before, you can download the research and then you can take the references and write your article. So those are other things that you can do. So you can download stuff. Those are my hacks. If that answer your question, Basler. And if anyone else has any other questions, I'll be happy to answer. Any other questions? No?
Hey, I think you covered everything, majority of the, I think. So, Rafael, behalf of the community again, thanks so much. It was amazing content. I think people will have loads of digest here, loads of true learning, loads of pomodoros to follow.
Yeah.
And
The last call to action is to access the main event tomorrow, the High Value Developer. Get registered because tomorrow is the main event. It's going to happen a little bit early at 5 p.m. Dublin time. So that's pretty much it. Sorry, Igor, can go ahead.
yeah, no, don't worry. I posted the link 2 times already, so you guys going to find here in the description below. Again, Rafael, thanks so much. It was amazing. For SouJava as well, thanks for the opportunity. As I said, that was kind of a Java Voice Worldwide pilot, the episode 0. Hopefully, we can progress this and have the episode 1. So Again, I'm your host, Igor de Souza, and until next time, bye.
Thank you so much, Igor. Honored to be here in So Java again. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Bye bye, guys. Thank you.